Where's the bill that says, whereas Christianity was a principal tool in encouraging and supporting slavery for the first 150 years of this nation's history, we therefore declare a week free from this, abomination. But
the Salem witch trial is a very embarrassing episode about religious influence in the United States that unfortunately isn't even mentioned in this thing.
So evidently, not only are people picking and choosing from the Bible, they're picking and choosing from history as well.
That's right. It's a lot of spin. And then the thing that's really, really annoying about it is it's loaded with lies about American history. It's from top to bottom, it's really loaded. It turns out one of the big heroes, unsung heroes in this whole episode is a woman by the name of Chris Rhoda, who wrote a book, Liars for Jesus, the Religious Right's Alternative Version of American History. She's a historian who has, fortunately for America, pointed out all of the lies in this thing. So one of the whereases clauses is, whereas political scientists have determined that the most frequently cited source in the political period was known as the founding era was the Bible. So what? It's
not only is it a so what, but okay, and once upon a time the most frequently cited source was the Code of Hammurabi. I mean, when you've got a book that's as pervasive and ubiquitous as the Bible, of course it's going to be cited. When your population is 95, 96% Christian, as was the case in those times, of course they're going to cite it. That says nothing about whether it's right or whether they should be doing it.
Right. This Chris Rhoda has done a great job of debunking the whole thing. So it's basically a whole bunch of lies, all right? I mean, we can learn so much from this bill about the Christian character and the character of our sponsors. It basically says the sponsors of the bill are intentionally deceptive to Americans, or they're ignorant. And either way, these people have demonstrated they are unfit for office, in my opinion. They are trying to propagate a whole bunch of propaganda under the name of U.S. law, and these people don't deserve to be in office. Okay, and furthermore, they're sabotaging the U.S. history, which shows that they don't have our country's best interests at heart. They have other agendas. Okay, these folks are not patriotic. They're treasonous. Okay, they have no respect for the laws. They have no respect for our history, and they are not serving their constituents, but they are marching to different orders. So there's a clear conflict of interest here. These people are not don't deserve to be paid even by the United States, right? They're not even working for the United States. They're working for the Christian conservatives, okay? So when you have this conflict of interest, you have many deeply religious people are unfit for office because they will gladly make this sort of trade. They'll gladly use their power to promote Christianity. So another problem that Matt brought up earlier, what is the benefit to America of these sorts of resolutions? In fact, I didn't even read what the resolutions are. Let me read them.
Well, Congress has done a number of resolutions and different things that are pretty much meaningless. And I every time I see one of them, I kind of shudder because I realize, okay, this is some congressman that's doing a buddy a favor. We're going to show respect for this particular portion of our society or our history by declaring, something pointless.
Right, and they often do like platitudes, right? We rah-rah for mom and apple pie, that sort of thing. Feels good sorts of things.
And in general, that's why I'm not quite sure that, and I haven't read all the resolutions, so I'm not sure, but I'm not quite sure this really runs afoul of the First Amendment, because it could just be, let's put together a big rah-rah, religion thing, and this week isn't a mandate for anybody to do anything. The idea that we're going to set aside a week to celebrate our religious history. I don't know why that gets a whole week when some other serious individuals only get a day. Of course, then you've got in Black History Month. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it varies as to how much attention we're going to pay to something. On that level, I don't really mind it so much. What I do object is the thing that I talked about earlier, where they're wasting time and money on things that are far less important than the real issues. And the things that you've pointed out, where they're essentially engaging in this kind of revisionist history and lying. And I can't count the number of times that people bring up the Founding Fathers and the Founding Fathers were Christian.
Yeah,
well, yes, in fact, many of them were, but many of them were also deists, many of them were also freethinkers. they weren't necessarily of one mind on religion, and many times God was attempted. There was an attempt to insert God into the Constitution, and every time it was explicitly voted down. These were men who understood that true religious freedom has to serve everyone of all beliefs, that we can't even insert language that encourages religion over irreligion. That's just not the case. I mean, you can't function as well. As soon as you start taking sides, not necessarily, oh, we're Catholic and not Protestant, or oh, we're Jewish and not Christian. You can't even do the, oh, we're religious and not religious. This has to be a country where everybody is free to have their own beliefs, and not to have the morals and ethics of a majority imposed upon them by fiat or legislation. I mean, you can't work that way. But when they pick out the quotes from the founding fathers, they're really selective. Everybody tends to ignore the fact that Thomas Jefferson essentially created the Jefferson Bible, which is a redacted New Testament, removing everything supernatural and just basically keeping some of
considered Jesus a philosopher.
Yeah, he kept some, not all, of the moral and ethical teachings of Jesus. And you know what? I could do the same thing. There are some of Jesus's moral and ethical statements that I'm, just fine with. There are others that I think are horribly bad advice. This whole take no thought for tomorrow, God's going to provide everything you need. Don't save, that's absurd. That's bad advice. And, fortunately, I guess, we don't see too many Christians following that bad advice because I think they recognize it. But, you've got James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Paine, George Washington, all these guys that they quote, but they pick and choose. Well, I can pick and choose quotes as well. James Madison, for example, starts off, "The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries." John Adams, who they were just referencing in there, "God is an essence that we know nothing of. Until this awful blasphemy is got rid of, there will never be any liberal science in this world. Can a free government possibly exist with the Roman Catholic Church? The question before the human race is whether the God of nature shall govern the world by his own laws or whether priests and kings shall rule it by fictitious miracles. The divinity of Jesus is made a convenient cover for absurdity. Nowhere in the Gospels do we find a precept for creeds, confessions, oaths, doctrines, and whole cartloads of other foolish trumpery that we find in Christianity." Now, this is John Adams talking. Mm-hmm. Thomas Jefferson, "It's too late in the day for men of sincerity to pretend they believe in the Platonic mysticisms that three are one and one is three, and yet that one is not three, and that three are not one. But this constitutes the craft, the power, and the profit of the priests." I mean, and I've got probably 20 pages full of different quotes here from him.
And these were educated men, and they could tear it down.
The thing that, and I've brought this up before, the thing that I don't think enough people really understand is it doesn't matter whether or not the Founding Fathers were pro-religion or anti-religion, whether they were Christian, non-Christian, whether they were atheist, theist. Who cares? They founded a nation. They founded it on specific principles. But we're not bound by that. If, and we've demonstrated this before, slavery used to be legal. We have graduated to the point where we understand that this was an abomination. This is a terribly dark period in our history where we were so woefully misguided with regard to morals and ethics and how we treat other people that we allowed something, excuse me, that should have never been allowed. But it's a natural part of the progress of our growth. Ethics and morals evolve. We changed that. It doesn't matter to me so much what the Founding Fathers thought. What matters to me is what we think now. What kind of changes can we make now? And, while I attack religious ideas that I find absurd, I fully realize that we all have to work together. We are stuck here in this little country, on this little planet, where we need to figure out a way to best work together for the benefit of everybody. And any attacks on religion I make are because I feel that those religious claims directly impede progress. They represent an old, unwarranted style of thinking that has done nothing, I won't say has done nothing, but that has impeded progress, retarded scientific progress, and moral progress. And That's where the attacks come from. I'm choked.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I swallowed something.
Okay.